everybody, and welcome back to the 5 O'Clock Sweats podcast. As always, I'm Ryan, joined by my good friends.
I'm Derick.
And I'm Chris.
And in this episode, we are going to dive into fantasy football. Our second fantasy football related episode. I think we mentioned we were going to do like a mid-season recap just to go over our seasons to this point and see where we all stand, if we're having the season we thought and hoped we'd have, or if our seasons are already in the gutter.
All of the above.
Okay.
Spoiler alert.
Interesting. Can't wait to hear more. So I think we'll start with we'll go over our league standings, where each of our teams currently sit in our respective leagues. And since I'm speaking, I will start first. And I'm happy to report that my team, Hurts So Good, is in first place in my league.
Wow.
With a record of 15-3. Now, keep in mind, as I mentioned before, my league does a double win, double loss. So I've got 15 wins and just 3 losses. I'm also leading the league in points with 1,190 total points. Second place has got 1,145. So I've got a pretty comfortable lead. As long as my team doesn't shit the bed and I don't have like a really, really bad week in the next few weeks, I should be looking pretty good to lock up that top point spot. But I'm only 1 win ahead of second place, so it's getting a little dicey. And I'm coming off a week where I thought I was probably going to get 2 wins, but it was a weird week in fantasy, as you guys know. What was it, week 10? This is week 9 that just passed.
Yeah.
So week 9 was just like a strange fantasy week across the board, very low scoring. I think the high points for my league was like 115. I won my game 94 to like 70, which is just like a very low scoring game, especially in my league where, people are scoring like in the hundreds every week. So yeah, that's my league so far. I'm doing well. I'm happy. I just got to keep it up. I've got a tough week coming up this week because half my roster's on bye. So I'm kind of patching my team together with duct tape this week and some waiver wire pickups. So I'm hoping I can at least secure 1 win to at least guarantee a tie for first, but we'll see. So let's move on to Chris. How about you? Where's your team standing?
All right. So I think I mentioned in the first episode we did this that I'm in 3 leagues. I'm going to focus on this episode on my best league. My other 2 leagues, I'm essentially like 500, kind of like middle of the pack. Nothing really to write home about. But in the league that I'm going to reference in this episode, I am at the top of the leaderboard at 8-1.
God damn it.
Nice. I am actually. So this is what's interesting. It's always, with fantasy is, the first place team, where do they stand in terms of fantasy points scored? So I actually rank 3rd, not by, it's not a big margin in points scored. So far I have 1,290 points scored. I am currently on a 7-week win streak.
Nice.
So we're kind of just taking off here. I am in the same boat as you, though, Ryan. This week I'm kind of throwing in the towel. I don't want to, I'm going to make some waiver wire moves, but I sometimes you kind of just the ad drop, you want to keep a guy, so you're like, screw it, I'm just going to take the L this week. So I don't think I'm going to quite sell this week, but it's not going to look great. Because, I'm heavily invested in the Eagles, Dolphins, and Chiefs as well. So, they're all on bye. So we're going to be kind of like plug and play here. And we'll see. Maybe we'll get lucky, and maybe my opponent will also be in the same situation. I haven't really looked at the matchup yet. But yeah, that's where I stand. I'm going to be excited to talk about, some of the players that are booming. And then also I'll be really excited to rant about some of the shitty players. So we'll get to that. But I'll throw it over to Derek. Derek, where do you stand?
Oh boy.
Well, if you remember, dear listener, our last episode on fantasy football, my draft report card said I would have 1 win on the season, and I have absolutely blown that out of the water. I'm already 3-6.
Oh, let's go. You tripled it.
I tripled your expectations, NFL fantasy. I am on a 4-week losing streak. Feels good every week. Just put in the work. I'm currently 8th out of 12. So that's I am on the board
Not
somewhere.
in last place.
Not in last place, but it's creeping up on me. In terms of points for, I'm actually ranked 9th. It's a pretty hefty ways up to the next person, and really not that many points down to the 10th place person. So it's been a time.
Well, as they say, there's a lot of ball left. So
Yeah, a lot of game left.
a lot of
You're
game
right.
left. Do
You
you guys?
know what? I did win last season, so maybe this is just my victory lap.
Oh,
Well, you know what they say.
I don't remember
it's-
you saying that.
It's tough to go
well,
back
I
to the
don't like to
promised
really
land.
pat myself on the back, you know.
I didn't realize we were speaking with the champion.
Please, Mr. Champion.
Nice. Do you do playoffs, or how do you? What's your like playoff system like?
Hey, I don't know.
Just cross your fingers and hope for the best.
Yep, I'm either in them or I'm not.
Okay, but you do like a do you know if you do like a bracketed thing? Do you have any idea at all, or no?
No.
Okay.
And over to you.
Yeah, I don't do.
Yeah, I've been in this for years. I don't know what the system is.
I'm just here
You
for
just
a good time.
asked me to join for another warm body to throw in there.
There you
Even out
go.
the numbers, so here I am.
Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. You won last
Yeah,
year.
that's correct.
So I don't do a playoff, like a traditional bracket playoff system. We just tally up the total wins at the end of the year and the total number of points, and whoever has the most wins the league. So I'm a fan of that because I was talking to my coworker today, actually. Like, it's like any sport. Like, you have a great regular season and then you get bounced out in the first round because your team has a bad week, which I think kind of sucks. So
Yeah. I agree with you. I've not been in a league that has that format, but I would love to, because the issue I've always had with fantasy playoffs is it's like it comes when a lot of the buys are starting to come into play, and it's like, or you start to have situation where some teams might be, you know, a lock for the playoffs, so they're kind of like resting people, so it gets weird, and I think there's a lot of like BS, you know. I don't think it's a fair representation. So I like that. Like, the overall winner is the winner.
yeah.
I do think for fantasy football that should be how it is, because unlike, you know, traditional sports, you actually have like no control over the outcome. Like, there's just an insane number of variables other than, you know, picking who you start, but for the most part you start kind of how you drafted people. You know what I mean? You know, aside from injuries, you know, you make calls there, but I would like to see more leagues kind of go that direction where, you know, the most points scored is the winner versus like these matchups, like you said, because you could literally, sometimes there's like, what's the incentive then to like racking up points during the regular season? You'd almost be better just skating into the playoffs, because in some leagues there isn't even a first place bye, you know? So it's like, what's the incentive? I don't know.
Yeah, I did a best baller draft last year, and I like the format a lot. You basically just, if you're not familiar, best baller draft, you just draft players, and they're not assigned. I mean, you can only draft a certain number of players at each position, but you're not setting a lineup each week. Instead, it's the total points for your entire team. You know, there's no bench, there's no starters, just at your entire team, and it adds up all the points. And then at the end of the year, whoever has the most points over the whole year wins the league. I think that's probably that's the best way to determine like a fantasy football champion is which team was drafted or who had the best draft and drafted the players who scored the most points, basically.
Yeah, I think that's interesting too. I kind of like that concept. I don't know how it deals with injuries, but that could be interesting for injuries because like one bad injury to your fantasy team could literally just knock you out of contention for the whole season.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the league I didn't allow like waiver pickups. So if your top dog got hurt, you were stuck with that guy. Like you would have to rely on the other players on your team to pick up the slack. So
that's kind of
But then that way, in that sense, it rewards like depth. Like how well did you draft in the late rounds? Like did you pick up players that can contribute later in the draft? So I don't know. I didn't do one this year, but I would be completely open to doing another league like that next year, and then in years after. I think that'd be a fun second league to do.
Yeah, I like the idea of different rule sets, different formats. I've played mostly in traditional leagues, like redraft leagues. This league that I'm discussing in this episode, I think this season is the first season we got rid of keepers, which is nice because there were a lot of guys that just, you know what I mean? Like you wouldn't ever be able to draft them. Like in the last 4 years, you were never drafting Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, like, you know what I mean? Like the first overall pick, like I remember a few years ago, I think I had first overall pick and it was so bad. It was like Jordan Howard was the first one to go.
Jesus.
Like, you know what I mean? Like that's the level of talent that was left after the keepers. So, I like changing things up. I am in a dynasty league too, which, is fun. But it's like there's added layers of complexity there. And, it's interesting because you'll have like a rookie draft. So, like, for example, like I have Jalen Hurts as a rookie. So, like, I have him on the cheap. But, once he's done on his rookie contract, you got to then draft him and pay, he'll probably command, $50-$60. Not real money, but like your salary cap money. So, there's all sorts of, ways to go about it, but I just like simple redraft, and I would like to see kind of like that best baller. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, So maybe we can do one. Maybe we'll do the 5 o'clock sweats football fantasy football league next year. So any viewers who want to be a part of the 5 o'clock sweats fantasy football league next year, comment below. And we'll get things in motion next year.
Nice.
Let's talk about some of our top players. So, let me see. I actually don't know off the top of my head who my top scorer is, but I can probably guess that it's Tyreek Hill.
What do you mean, guess?
I could.
It is.
It's either him or Jalen Hurts.
No, it's Tyreek. Tyreek is like, I think he's the 1 or 2 overall.
Okay. Well, then
That's
it's
nuts.
Tyreek, even though he's coming off a bad week, 9 points. Like, come on, my dude. I was counting on him last week and he let me down. But yeah, my top performer has been Tyreek Hill. He's been an absolute monster minus last week. He's scored, there was a week where he scored almost 40 points. That was back all the way in week 1. But he's just been consistently getting like in the 20s, some in even like low 30s. And he's been my MVP so far this year, followed closely by Jalen Hurts, who started off a little slow but has really picked it up the last few weeks, and he's been just an absolute monster, putting up 20 spots, 20 to mid-20s per game. He's actually been my leading scorer the last 3 weeks in a row. He's been coming on strong, even though he's not running as much with the knee, but he's still throwing for yards. He's still throwing for a lot of touchdowns. And when you get to that 1 yard line, you know it's coming.
Yes, that's why I drafted him.
That tush is going to get pushed across the goal line. And besides those two guys, Travis Etienne's been really good, even probably better than I even expected. I mean, he's been just consistently getting like a lot of carries, targets in the passing game. He had 1 week where he scored 33 points, which is awesome. But he just gets fed, and that's why I love running backs, especially with Dougie P there. He just likes to feed the running backs. I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
like they get fed, and he's been like the cowbell for them. And then who else? Oh, someone I picked up like week 3, I think.
Mm-hmm.
When did I pick this guy up? Early in the season, but Adam Thielen has been a revelation.
Yeah.
He's been starting for me the last like 4 or 5 games in a row, and he's, besides this past week where he had a down week, but so did everybody, he's been like consistently getting like double-digit targets, putting up like high teens, low 20s in points consistently. Like I don't know where I'd be without him. Like I picked him up early in the season, but he's been I would not have thought that Adam Thielen would be my third receiver on my fantasy team, and I'd be in first place with the most points in the league. So, hats off to Adam Thielen. Chris, how about you? Who are some of your top performers so far?
So this is hilarious. I know we talked about this and we talk about it off podcast, but like Ryan and I have like the same team.
We do, yeah.
So the difference is this league for me, the point, like the scoring is like insanely high. So like for example, Tyreek by the way, he's the 1-1. So he in this league, he's the number 1 scoring wide receiver, but he's also the number 1 overall fantasy scorer.
Okay.
So that's what I was saying.
Makes sense.
He's not even like, it's not even a question. But for example, like Tyreek's basically, he's averaging 29 fantasy points per game in my league.
Jesus.
Yeah.
And in week 1, he put up 60 points when he went 11 for 215 and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So he's by far my most consistent, and he has the highest ceiling because obviously he could go up to 60 points. And then Jalen is, he's probably like, I would say he's very consistent. He's averaging 25 points a game in my league. So he's the 2nd overall quarterback and the 4th overall fantasy scoring player in this league.
That's awesome.
And I drafted him, like you said. There's few quarterbacks that are going to vulture that many touchdowns. And, most teams on the 1, they have their running back who's going to just, bulldoze through. But like the Eagles, we know what's coming. So that was a lot of the value there for him, is the fact that like when they get to the 1, and they always seem to be on the 1.
Yeah, I know, right?
he's taking it in. And then I think third best, it's kind of like a tie, actually, because here's a crazy stat or fact. So Devon Achane, okay, he's been hurt. He's been on IR. He is still the 8th overall running back, and he averages, like in the games he played, 32 fantasy points a game in my league.
Yeah, man.
And he's a rookie. So week 1, I didn't start him, and it made sense because he had 2 fantasy points. Week 2, I didn't start him because I was like, what's his role? He puts up 66 points on my bench in week 2.
Disgusting.
With 200 yards rushing. So I think he, when he comes back, and obviously if he had stayed healthy, would probably be right up there with Tyreek. He's probably going to be my 3rd best. But for active players, ETN, like you were saying, Ryan, he's up there too. What is he? So he is the 3rd overall RB in my league, and he's averaging 21 fantasy points a game. And I like him. The reason I drafted him is his work in the pass game. And, you have a young quarterback. So you love to have a running back that can receive, because it takes a lot of pressure off of a young quarterback who, Trevor Lawrence was kind of known for throwing some crazy picks, but like I think having that safety net there is very helpful. And the dude just like puts out 100 yards a week, total yards. So, on the ground and in the air. So, I think that those have kind of been my successful pieces. Obviously, I've, pieced together, Dallas Goedert was doing okay until his arm fell off.
Yeah, he was coming on strong, which is a shame.
Yeah.
A damn Cowboys player.
So I'll roll it over to Derick, and then I think we can kind of roll around again and go through our disappointing players. But Derick, where do you stand with your best performers?
Yeah, so I actually don't know how to rank them.
That's okay.
Just so just go off feel. Like, you don't have to have hard stats, but like, who do you think is scoring the most points for you each week?
So everyone I'm about to mention is really streaky, and I have 4 players in my mind right now. The first one is the man who carried me to victory last year, Davante Adams.
Yeah.
And he's really good at just picking up a disgusting number of points one week and then attending the game the next week. Like, it's frustrating. I understand we'll get into this a little bit later, but like perpetually a little bit hurt. So I don't know.
It's also, I think there's going to be a huge turnaround now with the coaching change, but I think that was a scheme problem. I do think it's a quarterback problem.
Yeah.
It's not Davante Adams. But yeah, streaky players, it's so hard to rely on.
I was hoping he was going to get traded at the trade deadline and actually go to a good team that would use him. Cause
yeah, he deserves.
It's not him. He hasn't lost a step or anything. His quarterback sucks. Play calling sucks. So
I'll get there in a second.
It's unfortunate.
In kind of the same vein, DJ Moore, I feel like he has been my top performer. Solely because of that one disgusting week that he had.
Oh my God, yeah.
I think I texted the group chat we have, but in week 5, I think he had a Thursday night game. And that Thursday night game, he put up 48 points all on his own.
Yep. He had like 30 in the
Daniel
first half.
Jones hadn't played yet, right? Daniel was playing on Sunday. And at that point in the whole season, 4 weeks, Daniel Jones had 48.9 points.
Yeah.
So in 1 week, DJ Moore did pretty much exactly the same as Daniel Jones had done all season. So
that ain't good.
That's how that went. So those are the 2 wide receivers that are doing good for me. The 2 running backs, Bijan Robinson, Kenneth Walker III. I feel like also kind of streaky there, but when they do good, they do good. Or when they do good, they do great.
So what's so interesting about all the players you listed, they're all very talented, but they all have super shitty like offenses, and like the Seahawks, Kenneth Walker's a great RB. The Seahawks last week, what did they score? 3 points? You know what I mean? Like, and I think he had, because I think I played against him. I think he had less than 2 fantasy points, if I'm not mistaken. But it's just like, and the same thing with DJ Moore and Bijan Robinson. Dude, why are they not just literally just force feeding him the ball every second of every game?
Yeah, it's that's frustrating, man.
Arthur Smith sucks, dude. That dude needs to go.
Funny you mentioned Bijan. I currently have a trade proposal from my father. I think it's Bijan Robinson and Dalton Kincaid for Devontae Smith and Pacheco. So I'm going to consider that. I haven't lost faith in I haven't lost faith in Bijan. I need a tight end. So we'll get into that in the next segment, but yeah, the whole Bijan thing is a mystery to me. Like, he's such a stud, and they don't use him. Like, they use Algier, but why did you draft Bijan in the first round if you're just going to use him? Like, I don't understand.
Listen, the writing was on the wall with Kyle Pitts. They don't use him either.
Yeah. The Falcons' play calling and coaching just if I were a fan, it would infuriate me. That'd be like the Eagles not throwing the ball to Davante Smith, or giving the ball to
sometimes they do that.
Giving the ball to Kenny Gainwell in the goal line instead of DeAndre Swift.
So I think
they do that.
Yeah, they do that too.
Without even fact checking this, I can confidently say that the best Falcons fantasy player is Younghoe Koo, their kicker.
You're right.
I bet you if you look it up, there's no way he's not.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
But all right, do we want to go through? We could call them busts, or at least people that are underperforming.
Yeah, definitely. Because I have a couple, despite my prowess this year. I've got some rusty wheels, or some squeaky wheels, that are kind of keeping me from reaching my full potential. So the number one offender for me for disappointing players on my squad this year, and I should have known this was a mistake when I drafted him, but Darren fucking Waller has been a train wreck. He's been an absolute train wreck. He's currently on IR, so he's useless to me. Anyway, but let's look at his stats this year. I'm going to run through the numbers, the point totals each week. Starting off, week 1, a resounding 4.5 points.
Wow.
Week 2, we take it up a notch to 10. Okay, we're moving in the right direction. Maybe this is the start of something new. Week 3, 1.5 points. Week 4,
different.
1.5 points. He's consistent.
Oh, consistency.
He's consistent.
We like it.
And at this point, I'm watching like all the fantasy like podcasts and whatnot. I'm like, what are these experts saying about Darren Waller? Should I stick with him? Like, he's the only, like, the Giants don't have anyone to throw to. Like, he's their best offensive player besides Saquon Barkley. So I keep him in my lineup, and I get rewarded with a 12 spot in week 5. I'm like, okay, here we go. We're back on the train. Week 6 cuts that in half with 6.5 points. And I'm just like, where is the damn consistency? And week 7, he's coming out party, finally. 18.5 points, 7 catches for 98 yards and a touchdown. And I'm dancing around. I'm singing his praises. I'm like, I knew my faith would be rewarded eventually with Darren Waller. Like, it was just about time before he's turned it on. And then he bounced back in week 8 with a resounding 0.5 points, 1 catch for 4 yards, and then left early with a hamstring injury and has been placed on IR. So
get that average back down to where it should be.
God, he's been such a disappointment. And like, I should have known with his injury history, and the Giants are just a train wreck like of a franchise. So I should have never drafted him, but I fell into the trap. I thought maybe that he would put a change of scenery would do well for him, and Daniel Jones would actually not be dog crap. And unfortunately, Derick was dog crap, and Darren Waller can't stay healthy. So he's been my biggest disappointment. And if he was performing at like half of his normal ability, then I would be running away with this league probably. Anyway. Another player who's been a disappointment for me, and I hate to say this because I love him to death, but Davante Smith has been underwhelming this year. Not as bad as Darren Waller, but he's been underwhelming, to say the least. He had a stretch of games from week 5 to week 7 where he scored 0.5 points, 6.5, and 6. Now, he's turned it up recently. He's got 18.5 points against Washington 2 weeks ago, and last week against Dallas, he had 12.5. So he's starting to get some targets. A.J. Brown's been like the cowbell there in the receiving game, and for good reason. He's a beast. But Davante's really good too, and I want them to start throwing the ball more, not just for my selfish fantasy purposes, but just for the Eagles. I think they're a better team when the ball's getting spread around and they're using all of their weapons, and Davante Smith is a top-tier receiver in this league and deserves the ball more. But anyway, he's been overall disappointing. Might be too strong of a word, but he's been he's been less than I thought, basically. And a third player, I'm gonna have to. I was gonna say Derrick Henry because he started off kind of poor, but he's been turning it on a little more recently. But I will say he has not been Derrick Henry of the past. He's not putting up like 20 spots every week. He's getting into like the mid-teens to low 20s ish. So, I'll take that. But I think the days of him scoring like mid-20s to 30s every week are over. So yeah, that's those are my disappointing players. So Chris, what about you? Who's been letting you down so far?
So I'm thankful that this year, usually this is a long list for me, but this year I feel like I changed my drafting philosophies and I think I've minimized some of the letdowns, but there obviously are some. And this was one when I drafted him, I was like, I had to draft him when I did. He was the next best player in the position that I needed, but this is just kind of how he is. And unfortunately, the Seahawks are not as advertised. And maybe Geno had that one-hit wonder last year, but DK Metcalf has been disappointing for me. I can't say that he's been bad, but I've had higher expectations for him. He's only averaging about 13 fantasy points a game, which, again, is not bad, but you draft DK Metcalf with a higher expectation than that.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
He's not topping. His yardage totals are the issue. He's topped 100 yards once this year, and he's not scoring many touchdowns either. I think Geno's having just a hard time getting in the ball. It's certainly not for lack of talent. He has been a bit banged up the last few weeks, so, for what that's worth, but so is everybody. So I don't really, I can't put too much weight on that. So he's been my biggest disappointment, but, he still finds his way into my starting lineup. And then I would say, like, my other disappointment would probably be Dallas Goedert. Again, hasn't necessarily been bad, but the consistency hasn't been there. He's had some really low weeks. He's had a 4-point week all the way up to a 31-point week. So there's just, you never really know what you're going to get with him. And kind of to your point with Devontae Smith, I think, Philadelphia, it's a great problem to have. There's a lot of mouths to feed, all very talented. So, they kind of like, rotate around whose week is it now. And, right. Goddard just hasn't really been getting as much consistency in terms of the yardage total. And of course now he's going on IR. So, it's going to probably be a letdown fantasy year for him. And then I think last would be, and this is a bench player for me. I drafted him for depth. I mean, obviously he has a huge upside. And I've been plugging him in for like bye weeks. And last week he got me a goose egg. And when that happens, I have like no tolerance for that. So this is Michael Thomas.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
Not been doing much. Obviously we knew, Olave was the one there. But even as the second option, he just really hasn't been getting a lot of like, again, I think his volume isn't too bad, but it's his yardage totals are underwhelming. He hasn't topped 70 yards in a game.
Just catches those slants.
Yeah, he does. But nowadays he catches those slants and he goes down and he doesn't score touchdowns. So
yeah,
he's been a little tough. And then I would say I did have some high expectations for Sky Moore as like a little bit of a sleeper pick, and he's been nothing. I actually think I have a waiver wire in for someone, and I think I'm dropping him. I don't think the dude's broke 5 points this year. I don't know what that means. Like, if you can't succeed in the Kansas City offense, I really don't know what that means.
Yeah, Kansas City's receivers are just, I don't know.
Weird.
You can't trust anybody on the team besides Kelsey. That's it.
Exactly. So, yeah, I took a shot at him, a young guy, and he didn't pan out, so he's probably a drop. But that's my list. So DK and Goddard are the main ones. For depth, Michael Thomas has been a disappointment.
MT.
Well, I guess it's my turn, huh?
Yes.
This will come as no surprise. My disappointment is anybody who is my starting quarterback in any week ever. If you listen to the last fantasy episode, you'll know that I have Daniel Jones as my starting quarterback, or I had Daniel Jones as my starting quarterback. Spoiler alert. He had an abysmal week 1. It was very bad. They scored 0 points. That wasn't good. Week 2, he picked it up. He scored 31, almost 32 points. So I thought, all right, obviously it's tough to score fantasy points if your team's not scoring real points. So we'll rock with him for a little bit more. Week 3, just shy of 4 points.
Ugh.
Week 4, just shy of 9 points. Week 5, I think this was when he got injured. He got just over 7 points. So I figure, all right, he's out of commission for a little bit. I'm going to switch over. Who's the next best available for week 6? I pick up old Jimmy G.
Oh, man.
Which is the week where he hurt his back.
No.
So in the span of 7 days, both of my starting quarterbacks just had some weird spinal injury to some disc somewhere. God damn it. But ever since then, I've been rocking with Derek Carr, and that's been whelming. It's not overwhelming. It's not underwhelming. Whelming.
Yeah. He's
hell of a lot better than Daniel Jones has been producing for me. So that's good.
A quick comment there about Derek Carr. So what's so interesting about Derek Carr, there is no other quarterback in the league that you have to worry about the tight end taking points from the quarterback.
Time.
Yeah.
So Taysom Hill is actually probably outscoring Derek Carr
I
in
believe it.
fantasy. And in one of my leagues, I did pick him up off the waiver wire, and he's a tight end. And
yeah, same.
it's amazing. He's a Swiss Army knife. You know, he's going to throw touchdowns. He's going to run for touchdowns. He's going to catch touchdowns. He might kick field goals at some point. You never know.
He's gonna
Man does it all.
Yeah, I picked him up too, actually, or I put a waiver wire in for him, so we'll see if I get him.
Yeah. So I think
did that during some week. I also tried to put in a waiver claim for him. Did not pan out for me.
Yeah, he's been playing pretty hot, but I think that's the knock against Derek Carr. I actually, for this crazy bipocalypse that we're having this week, where everyone is just taking the week off, I just put a claim in for Josh Dobbs. So maybe he can work that magic again for me for 1 week.
This past week, I was like, I'm fed up with my quarterbacks. I'm just gonna blow it up. Who's available? I saw Josh Dobbs. I saw he went to Minnesota. I'm like, oh, this might be the sleeper pick. Oh, he's not gonna start, so he's not gonna score points. Little did I know he was going to pop off
and win the
save
game for
the
them.
Vikings. Yeah.
Saving their season.
Damn. Well, there was no way I could have predicted that.
No.
So.
Is he starting for this
the
week?
foreseeable future? I'm still rocking with Derek Carr.
Rocket. So
Yeah, you kind of have to. Like, that's the safest option. I mean, right now, the waiver wire for quarterbacks is probably not good if you're in a 12-person league.
Yeah.
maybe play the matchups. Like, you have Dobbs on your bench right now.
Nope, didn't even pick him up.
Oh, never mind.
He was just saying he thought about
I
it.
thought you picked him up.
He had all
Sorry,
these
sorry.
thoughts.
Okay. Well, hopefully Derek Carr can at least consistently get you double-digit points.
That's all I'm asking for. That's
the bar
all
is so
I'm
low.
asking for.
10 or more, baby.
It's
Come on.
so low.
10 or more.
So low. That is insane. I'm trying to think, Like, I'm looking at my waiver wire, and it is disgusting how shitty this is. Like, what's left over is just poop. It's like, it's trash.
Mine's
And
bad, too.
side note, what the hell is going on with Jamal Williams? He's been dropped.
Oh, dude,
And,
I drafted.
Yeah, that's my other disappointment. I mean, he was injured for a while. He was on IR for a while, but he came back and just kind of attends games, I guess.
Yeah, I drafted him too, and I ended up dropping him when he got hurt, and he hasn't done anything.
He's averaging 4 fantasy points a game in my league. He's good, and I don't know. I mean, obviously Kamara's the guy there, but you thought he was going to vulture touchdowns like he was before in Detroit.
Yeah.
I guess not. And then, God, there's nothing left on the waiver wire in terms of wide receivers in my league.
Yeah, I'm in an 8-person league, and the top receiver available is Cortland Sutton.
Oh, that's good, dude. What?
Well, I'm in an 8-person league, and he's actually been, been okay.
I have him on my bench, and every week when I need to fill in a wide receiver who's on bye, I'm like, do I want Michael Thomas or Cortland Sutton? And I think I have to go with Cortland now.
He's scoring touchdowns. He's got 6 touchdowns. Wow.
He does.
He's got 6 touchdowns. I might have to put in a claim for him. But
did you get any? I know obviously Derek's got Daniel Jones injury wise, but do you have any injuries that you're dealing with?
Yeah, well, as I touched on, Darren Waller is hurt.
Oh yeah.
So to replace him, let me see, what's his name? I picked up Trey McBride.
Nah. I'm gonna tell you who to get. Cade Otton, the Bucks tight end.
Didn't he have a touchdown last week or this week?
Dude, he's been playing well the last few weeks.
So I picked up McBride because he was coming off, because Ertz is hurt again. And he was coming off a 10-catch, 95-yard, 1-touchdown performance. And that was with Josh Dobbs at quarterback, of course, and then he gets traded. And then this past week, he had 3 catches for 22 yards with the rookie quarterback in there. So it wasn't good.
Dude, never chase. Tight ends always follow up a great game with a shit game. Just to remind you that they're tight ends, bro.
True. But we'll see. He's got Kyler Murray might come back this week. The long-awaited return of Kyler Murray. Just in time for Modern Warfare 3. Yeah, I was gonna say.
That's what I was going to say.
He's like, I got to take one more week off.
That is so fitting that COD comes out this week, the same week that Kyler Murray's
Dude, what if he's
coming
on
back?
the what if he doesn't play? What if he's on the injury report and doesn't play this week?
Oh my
And it's like
God, dude.
parentheses personal. he's playing COD. You know he already beat the campaign
insane.
probably.
Oh my God.
So yeah, I'm dealing with so the tight end issue. The tight end position's been an issue for me all year. So again, I have a trade proposal from my father that includes Dalton Kincaid from Buffalo, who's been great. However, what's his name? The regular tight end there is coming back from IR soon, so I don't know what his production is going to look like, what Kincaid's production is going to look like in the next couple weeks. I tried to see if my dad would trade me Laporta, but I'm going to have to give up a little more for him. I don't know if it's worth it. I did put in a claim for, we were just talking about him, Taysom Hill. Who's a tight end in my league as well. So we'll see if I get him come Thursday. And if he does, I'm probably going to slide him into tight end, or I'll play him as my flex this week because it is the bye-pocalypse, so I've got a lot of guys out.
So I would say not to make a trade to fill a tight end need, because unless it's Travis Kelce, like I feel like the difference between any of the other tight ends and somebody you're going to take off of the waiver wire is probably like 5 points. You know what I mean?
That's true.
Like the tight end position, I hate it. I despise it. And that's why, like, unless you have like the 2 or 3 elite tight ends, and even they, you know what I mean? Like Mark Andrews is considered an elite tight end, but he can have some duds. Travis Kelce's the only one that's a solid lock.
Yeah.
Other than that, like, you know, I wouldn't give up Pacheco. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and he's been better. Pacheco's been much better recently, even though he's coming off he had a lot of carries this past week. He didn't really didn't get any touchdowns or anything, but he's been getting the rock. He's been getting a lot of carries recently, which is good.
Yeah, there's nobody competing with him other than Jerick McKinnon maybe, but I don't know. He's a good running back on a good offense versus, you know, nothing against Bijan, but we've kind of seen, you know, the Falcons are trash. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if I like you giving that up.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to think about it. I think we have until week 12 to make
for
trades.
a tight end.
So, and I would be, he wants Davante Smith, who, you know, I obviously want to keep him for, you know, he's an Eagle and I have Jalen. But I've also got guys like, Michael Pittman on my bench, who's been steadily getting, like, he gets the targets, he gets double-digit points pretty much every week. Like between 10 and 15 points. Sometimes they'll go off and get me close to 20. But usually in that 12 to 15 range is a sweet spot, which is fine for a third receiver. I'll take that every week.
Well, I would say for the Eagles, I think Davante is he's gonna get more volume now that Goddard's out.
That's true. That's a good point. That's a really good point.
And I just think like Pittman's ceiling is not as high. I don't know. You know, Davante could have 3 catches and have 150 yards.
Yeah, I mean Pittman's.
So
fucking Minshew's throwing to Pittman. So Gardner, Uncle Rico.
It always comes back to the birds.
Yep. And then one more injury that's been kind of plaguing me the last couple weeks, which is a shame because he got off to a pretty good start, was David Montgomery from Detroit.
Yeah.
He had a really decent start. He had a really solid start to the year. He put up a 31-point game back in week 4, but has been hurt since week 6. He's finally practicing this week, so he's trending to play. So I have him in my lineup right now, so I'm hoping that he just slides right back in and starts taking over like those goal line possessions especially and getting those touchdowns. But the Lions, I know the Lions like what they're seeing out of Gibbs. They're actually using him, and he's been solid. So we'll see what Montgomery's workload looks like. But if he can get back to the way he was before he got hurt, that's such a huge addition for me. Because I'm basically riding Zach Moss right now, just my third running back, who was amazing to start the year when Jonathan Taylor was coming before Jonathan Taylor came back. And he's still been solid. Like even with Jonathan Taylor back, he's been scoring a touchdown here and there. He's getting the goal line carries, even though he's coming off a goose egg last week for me. But yeah, I would like to get him out of my starting lineup. I don't really want to start a backup running back in my starting lineup. But besides that, I had a scare with Jalen during the game last week with that hit to the knee.
Don't even talk about it.
The Eagles season flashed before my eyes, and my fantasy season flashed before my eyes too. I was like, oh no, please! But he's a beast. He's an Iron Man, so he's not hurt.
I'm gonna be honest though. This is a little outside of fantasy football, but one of the things I don't like though is there is just so much ambiguity around this knee injury for him. Like nobody will tell us what the hell is going on, where he sustained this injury. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it like every time they ask about it, there's just like some cryptic response, which I understand not divulging or giving up too much information, but it's like I don't know. Like I texted this to Ryan, but it takes me back to that Deshaun Jackson abdominal injury a few years ago.
God.
Remember where it's
so
like
stupid.
He was out for basically the season, but they wouldn't put him on IR, and he wouldn't get surgery, and they just kept seeing, like, maybe next week he'll feel better. Maybe next week.
I forgot how weird that was.
He came off that really good game against Washington, right? Like 2 touchdowns, and then just died. Basically.
But I'm saying it just reminds me of that in the sense, like, we never got information, and, like, you know what I mean? Like, even to this day, nobody really knows what the hell. Like, he had a hernia, right?
Yeah.
But they wouldn't call it a hernia.
It was really weird. It was like
And what hernia?
a lower body injury. Like
yeah,
a hockey.
what hernia
tag.
doesn't need surgery? Like, it was just so weird. So I just hope they're not causing any future problems for Jalen. You know,
The Eagles
I don't know.
I think the Eagles are usually, the Deshaun situation aside, they're pretty good about keeping their players healthy. They don't really put them at risk when it comes to injuries, especially with, Jalen's the most important player on the team and just signed a big contract. So I think if it were a situation where there's a risk of him getting hurt, like long term, then they wouldn't have him out there. But
I agree.
Yeah, I think they trust him, and they've obviously concluded that it's not serious enough where he's no more risk of getting hurt than if it wasn't there at all, I guess.
Yeah.
It's apparently just a bruise. It's a bone bruise.
Yeah, but what's interesting about that is, I'm who the hell am I? But, like, a knee brace for a bone bruise, that seems weird because, like, doesn't the brace provide stability?
Yeah, that doesn't seem like something that would fix that.
I think, yeah. Maybe they're not giving us the full story, but the brace could also be to, like, cushion any blows taken to the knee.
Yeah, or it could be bionic.
Yeah, maybe he's
could just be like,
he's cheating out there.
You know what I mean? Yeah, it could be robotic.
Bicentennial man.
Who knows? Yeah,
Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, so that's all. I trust them with him, but I think at the same point too, like, the Eagles are very much in, like, win now window. So, I just we certainly don't want any kind of, like, RG3 vibes, and
oh man,
we know that nobody trusts Marcus Mariota. So
no,
I don't know. I think they would put Jalen out there in a wheelchair at this point over Mariota.
Yeah,
make the brotherly shove easier.
That would.
They just grab the handles
That
and
would.
push him.
Push.
He's just running people over with the wheels.
Oh my god!
Like run over Kelsey's fingers. That would not be good.
Side note: speaking of weird things, that just reminded me of the Dak meme.
Oh my god, dude.
From last week, where he was flipped over upside down.
Yeah, there's so many
and there's just
memes and, like, photoshopped images.
There's one of just, like, somebody taking Dak, he's upside down, and just throwing him into a trash can. So fucking funny, dude.
That was the best moment from that game. Besides, obviously,
for sure,
when they won. But yeah, I was really hyped because you don't see hits like that really nowadays, especially on the quarterback. So, like,
yeah,
no,
that was sick.
And I
big
was just
stop, big hit.
Yeah,
if he fumbled,
oh my god,
that would have been like the next crying. It would have been like the next crying Jordan meme. You know what I mean? Like, oh shit.
Dude, I don't know how he didn't fumble. There were a couple of situations where I thought there's no way he's hanging on to that football, and he did.
I actually think the way he landed, like, helped secure the ball. Like, it got pushed into his, like, into his chest. The way he landed on it versus, well, like, Jalen does that weird shit where he, like, just runs with the ball, like, hanging it, like, to the side. Like, I hate that.
Like how Shady used to run the ball.
Yeah.
Shady used to hold it out here. Like, so far from his body.
But that's how he fumbled in the Super Bowl. He just, like, has the ball loosey-goosey out there.
Let's not talk about
triggers
that.
me.
Let's not talk about that.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's fantasy for me so far.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm good to close the conversation there. Unless there's anything else
that's
you
also
want to talk
fantasy
about.
for me so far, and we got a little bit of preview for what might be our next week's episode, which is the Eagles mid-season recap. Is that right?
Yeah, we've entered the bye week, so perfect opportunity to kind of take stock of the season so far. The good, the bad, the ugly. Mostly good. A lot of good, actually. And a little bit ugly. But yeah, I'm excited to dive into the Eagles season so far. It's been a roller coaster, but I'll take 8-1 I'll take an 8-1 roller coaster ride any day.
Sure.
Oh, for sure. Well, if you have any comments on our fantasy teams, any individual players, if you want to express your condolences for my abysmal season so far, you can reach out to us on Instagram. We are at 5 o'clock sweats. Twitter, X, we are at 5 o'clock sweats. We're available in audio form on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Anything else?
I'm Gucci. Good luck to you guys the rest of the year in fantasy.
You too, man. You too.
We can do a third episode, a post season, a after fantasy season recap.
Ooh,
yeah.
See, I was gonna say I'm hopeful for the rest of my season, but as soon as you said we could do a third episode, I'm like, it's not gonna be good for me.
Well, hopefully we'll be talking about Chris and I winning our respective leagues, but we'll see. I don't want to jinx it. I'm knocking on wood right now.
Not even talking about it.
Yeah, well, I hope you do. And as always,
stay sweaty.
Stay sweaty.
Mountain Dew Game Fuel. We have a new flavor called Citrus Cherry. It's a nostalgia trip back to 2007 when Mountain Dew released their Game Fuel with the release of Halo 3. And it tastes like nostalgia and good times.
Well, what more do you need, folks? Cool, refreshing citrus cherry.
You say clitoris?
What? Oh, you just
What?
said clitoris, dude.
I thought you said,
Dude, what?
I thought you said clitoris
Yeah.
cherry.
What?
Maybe that's what I wanted to hear. Sheesh.
No wonder you couldn't find it for so long.
Damn.
Yo.
Damn, that's gonna be a fucking short.
No.